Mike Adams is in studio with us for the next 25, 30 minutes. Then he'll be back tonight on InfoWars Nightly News, 7 o'clock Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it at prisonplanet.tv. Now, I want to get into all these other rulings after we cover your top story, because it all ties together. Wisconsin, no right to produce or eat food, judge rules. Continuing, working to reform marijuana laws, puts out this report with the ATF letter. Feds to legal medical marijuana patients. You don't have Second Amendment rights, period. So now they're going to start SWAT teaming folks who they have a list of that are medical marijuana people dying of cancer and stuff. Here is the ATF letter on that. I'll show that to people right over here. And then we've got the good news, though. Chuck Norris is now coming out, and your guys at naturalnews.com wrote about this today. They written a big article for WorldNet Daily explaining Codex Alimentarius, food freedom, how deadly GMOs are. I mean, people say, oh, so what, Chuck Norris? This is a guy who's published in hundreds of newspapers. He's an icon to mainline conservatives. And as he starts to realize what a threat this is, because he's into health and things, we're really starting to transcend left-right and getting past all of these labels they use to divide us. Truth is the truth is the truth. And it's very exciting. That's what I like about Natural News is you're nonpartisan. You don't just have the pet projects. You go with the facts and the documents show. So we're going to be going over that a little bit later before you leave us, and then to your phone calls. Those that are at least holding, I'll get to you. I got stuck on the whole rapture rant earlier. But let's get into this Department of Health and Human Services document where they're now calling people, asking for their vaccine records, implying, just like we see local schools doing, that it's the law, you've got to have a shot. So this hoax that Perry ran, that you got to take Gardasil, and the hoax in California where, well, we're here to give you the shot, it's the law, it's really starting to get people angry. And the same California news stations that said it was the law, they had to backtrack and say, well, there is a waiver to a policy. Well, you don't need a waiver to a policy then. It's all just pushing this on people. So this is big breaking news that you put out last night. Let's go over it, Mike.
Well, I got to thank a Natural News reader actually sent us this documentation. You know how you have quite an amazing global network of people who are watching, and they're really following. If you see something, say something to Alex Jones. If you see something going wrong, you know, to twist Big Sis's special quote there. But we had a reader who sent us this documentation, and it shows a letter from the CDC that is saying we're going to be calling your home, we're going to be essentially interrogating you over the phone and asking you questions about your child immunization compliance. And they call it a surveillance program. Those are their own words. This is a vaccine tracking and compliance program, but it's disguised as a survey, Alex. They say it's a survey, but at the end of the survey, they want your medical records. They're actually asking you to go to your doctor and get their medical records with an entire history of your child's immunization.
And I know most people get a call from the feds. They literally, you know, do you-know-what on themselves. Like, well, the point is that they're fully aware of what they're doing. And again, this integrates in. I know you've seen the reports. You've written about it. We've written about it. Where in California, they're coming to the door and saying, okay, I'm here to give your child a shot. They try to force their way in and say, it's the law. I mean, this is a brazen group of crooks.
Absolutely. And get to the underlying thread of what's going on in America today is it's all about building lists. The government is building lists, like lists of people who are taking medical marijuana who won't be allowed to purchase firearms, or lists of people who buy more than one firearm at a time at a gun shop in Texas or Arizona and so on. This is about building a list of parents who refuse to vaccinate their children.
And they admit that that's why they now have the yearly census that select homes get, where they're asking guns, stocks, bonds, when do you go to work? Do you have renters? They're in your face. Yes. This is the secret police.
And check this out. Check out this lawyer language. In this letter from the CDC, they admit, quote, there are strict U.S. laws requiring that we protect your family's information and keep it confidential. But they don't say, Alex, that they're going to follow those laws. They just say the laws exist. Well, laws exist to prevent running guns into Mexico. There are laws that say the president has to have congressional approval to declare war. But these laws are routinely violated, and there's nothing in this letter that says the CDC is going to follow the law. It just says, yeah, a law exists. And then it says everyone who works on this, quote, survey must sign an oath that promises they will never give out anyone's personal information. Well, that admits that they're seeing all your personal information.
Well, number one, we already know under federal regulations in the last decade, they're already getting all these records. Yeah. They've got it, federal law, it's all digital and standardized. They're just getting you ready to use it publicly against you. Take OnStar. They've always been listening and tracking and selling the data. Now they're just saying, even if you opt out, we're going to still do it. Right. Okay, you've got to physically remove it. Now Facebook has to admit, oopsie, we're tracking you even when you leave our site. Google, public schools, yeah, we're watching your kids at home. The point is they're really trying to just acclimate now and bring this out in the open because they want to start publicly expanding it.
And they're trying to acclimate us to this terminology that surveillance is okay. They use that phrase. For example, if you go to the University of Chicago website, which I linked to in the article that's posted on InfoWars, they say there, and we took a screenshot of it because we knew they would change the language, but as of yesterday, it said this is, quote, the gold standard for public health surveillance on immunization rates. So they're trying to say, oh, surveillance is fine.
No, I mean, it's like we're wild zebras or something. They say that on the nature shows. We're surveilling with tracker tags this zebra or this great white shark as it travels across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, continuing with this, though, Mike, what do you make of all over the country now coming to homeschoolers' doors and others and saying, it's the law, I'm here to shoot you up, total color of law? I mean, this is happening because more and more people are waking up. They're now having to really come out and try to push it.
Well, honestly, I think this ties into the recent exercises in Denver, Operation, what was it, Mountain Guardian?
Yep, and they just now had another big drill as well. You can just unplug that. It's going out.
Okay.
Okay.
I think this has to do with creating lists of parents who are not vaccinating their children, and I think, this is just my opinion, but I think the CDC is going to roll out a Spy on Your Neighbor program that says if your neighbor isn't vaccinating their children, call us at an 800 number, report your neighbor to be a non-vaccinating parent, and we'll give you a free year's supply of vaccines, maybe a gift card.
No, Mike, that's already going on. They've already taken thousands of children we know of over the years who aren't vaccinated. There's no law, but they hype up the cops and the CPS to come grab your kid, bring them before a family court judge. They're gone on a plane to Saudi Arabia or wherever they send them. And if they're older, they turn the kids against you and say your parents were bad. That's why this happened. But now they just had a big drill in D.C. that we covered last night on the Nightly News. Drudge is covering it today, and it was basically a forced inoculation mass roundup drill. And we have the Model Health Emergency States Act. Okay, I'm saying that wrong. It's from 2002 and 2003. The Model States Health Emergency Powers Act that said they were going to have forced inoculations. And what do they train in the clergy response teams, the documents we got that have since been on the news? They got the preacher going, it's of the Lord, Romans 13, to take the shots and go to the camp. So they are training for this.
Well, clearly, and all of this is framed in the language of public health, that if you respond to this survey, which is called the National Immunization Survey, the NIS.
But it's of the Lord.
Well, of course it is. If you respond to it, you're doing good for public health. And they're going to use this data to find out who isn't compliant with vaccines so that they can give free vaccinations to low-income.
No, it's all part of the see something, say something. And you go to one of these training seminars, because we've got the manuals and video shot, and it's like, okay, 2 minutes of an Al-Qaeda training camp. Next, is your neighbor growing marijuana? Are they spanking their kids? Are they non-compliant? And so this is the whole army of snitches, and now you hear the ads on radio. Is your company using pirated software? Get money. Is your boss not paying all the IRS money? Doesn't even matter. They'll just make something up as an excuse. They're creating the new economy, is the snitch society.
Well, it's incredible. The spy network has now made its way to the CDC, I believe. And remember, it was on your show, Alex, that we talked about the CDC's ties to Northrop Grumman, the military defense contractor that's been found in violation of international weapons treaties and U.S. law. The State Department busted this company many years ago selling secrets to the Russians. The CDC gave them part of a $5 billion grant, an information technology grant, to essentially track partly compliance with immunizations. So the military industrial...
Well, of course the military is going to run the bioweapon program.
Well, yeah, of course. That's what this is.
It's a soft kill.
Vaccines, military, bioweapons, compliance, tracking. I mean, these are all the buzzwords that are now becoming... it's all out in the open now.
Yeah, the answer is rule number one with the feds FBI, CDC, keep your mouth shut. Rule number 2, keep your mouth shut. Rule number 3, keep your mouth shut, shut, shut. Rule number 4, don't talk. Rule number 5, shut up. Rule number 6, shut up. Shut up. Do you have a warrant? Get off my porch. CDC, click.
Exactly. Because at the end of this letter, which is very intimidating to parents, because it's a phone interrogation, and they're going to check to see if you lied to them on the phone by checking your doctor's medical records and comparing that with what you.
I was about to say they've already got them, and the feds have these weird laws where lying to a federal agent is a felony. So you know what? I don't talk to you because you're a pack of lying murderers.
At the end, they say, here's a big question at the end of the letter. How do I find out more about immunizations and places to get them? So you see...
No, that's what they do. They go, oh, you haven't had them? You have local laws on that.
Right.
Well, that's like these newscasts. It's the same in every area. All over the country, it's the same script. You've got 2 weeks to get shots. It's the law. Don't get arrested. Let's go to the police chief. That's right. We're going to be out here at Zilker Park this whole weekend. And on Monday, you don't have any excuse to get your children their shots. And there's always more. And it's all liars. All liars. They love it.
It's amazing the number of hoaxes that are being run now in this country, like the hoax that you can't record police in a public place at a traffic stop. That's all a hoax, as you've exposed. The hoax that you have to have your children vaccinated in order to get them into public school. A complete hoax. The hoax that...
Rick Perry said you had to take the Gardasil.
Another hoax. Or that Ron Paul can't win. A total hoax, complete fabrication with all the fabrications of the online...
Or that GMO isn't linked to problems in every study they are. Another hoax.
We're becoming...
Or WMDs in Iraq. Hoax.
Yeah, it's just... Well, and growing the heroin in Iraq and U.S. troops protecting it in Afghanistan. But I guess that's not a hoax. That's real. But the hoax was that we're there for freedom. No, we're there to grow drugs. I mean, it's incredible. The number of hoaxes in this country, it's just astounding. And I detect an escalation really in my own writing and in how you're describing these events here on your show. And it's a justified escalation because the world has gone insane, it seems, at so many levels.
Imagine cops with the state prosecutors coming down to the town they were in and saying, yes, we want this guy with no criminal record, an auto mechanic, to get life in prison for filming cops in public.
It's incredible.
And they're straight-faced. They go, yes, we want to put you in prison. I mean, this is total proof. These are absolute dangerous tyrants. I mean, lock up your wives and kids, folks. I mean, they're out there.
Well, yeah, clearly. And now we're going to have, I think, the vaccine compliance police that are going to raid your home in the same way that Marianne Godboldo was raided in Detroit because she wouldn't turn her teenage daughter over to CPS. And we know CPS...
For inoculations. And now they've had her and given her venereal diseases.
Well, right. That's when they had custody of her, and then she came out with VD. You're exactly right. And that was over a psychiatric drug, by the way, which they said the state later admitted that she didn't need the drug.
And it's a drug linked to heart attacks and all sorts of stuff in kids. It's like, oh, you're not going to let us put your black child, because they love targeting blacks. You're not going to let us poison her? Well, we're going to take her. And guess what? Now she's got diseases, and you're going to prison.
Now, Marianne...
We're the government.
She told me also, this is on the record, she told me and confirmed much of what you've been reporting here over the years, that there is a trade in CPS abducted children. I mean, there is. I mean, they are sold into white slavery. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them.
No, the select ones. They have catalogs. You know, this has come out. They've killed people over it. DynCorp, who's caught worldwide doing it, is the main private CPS contractor. They have a big office here. I've told police, they just laugh at me. It's like, well, they're big. They're allowed to. It's like, they're allowed to. Pretty soon, it's kind of like Prima Noctu, which is confirmed. Like, go back to Europe 1,000 years ago. It's in Braveheart, but it really happened. The noble was allowed to have your wife on the night of the wedding. Because under law, you know, the girl couldn't have sex till she was married. Well, that night, he was going to, you know, have his way. It's all about dominating us. And it's the same thing with CPS, but mainly they just put them into orphanages and fence them out that way. But there is a total trade. And listen, this isn't just my opinion. We showed it the other night on the newscast. New York Daily News and others going back 5 years ago. People always ask, that's incredible. You know, you've heard about they're testing toxic AIDS drugs on kids that didn't have AIDS? Yeah. No, they tested pesticides on them and killed them. They actually strapped black kids down, I guess because that's the group they're allowed to operate on, and murder them. And this is your government. And the government and CPS workers went public and said, we're delivering kids that are healthy, and they're dying a week later. And actually the CPS got in trouble, and they said, well, it's all done under a Department of Defense thing. Right here in America, folks, and Jesse Jackson doesn't care.
Look, people need to wake up and realize that these criminals will do anything for money. This just came out today, Alex, that in nursing homes, they realize that they can get triple the compensation from Medicare if they send a senior citizen to the hospital for 3 days and then bring them back to the nursing home. They get triple the compensation. So what do? They have them sent to the hospitals and they have tubes inserted into their bodies and they have surgical procedures. They're using your parents and your grandparents.
But again, what do you expect when people warehouse mama and papa and don't care because you're out partying? You'll be there in 10 years. Don't worry. No, you don't go check on them. You don't care. So, of course, predators are going to move in. They're going to do it. I mean, this is how evil works. And so now we are seen as steaks at the supermarket. We are literally seen as the food by the criminals.
You nailed it. That's the right term, predators. They are predators, and the people who haven't woken up are the prey. And if there is a silver lining to any of this, Alex, it's that more and more people are waking up because they realize that what we're talking about here is true, that this is really happening.
Listen, my dad told me when I was a kid that they killed people in Dallas hospitals for their organs.
There has been an underground trade in organs.
That's come out now.
Yes, absolutely. I remember I told a doctor friend of mine that 10 years ago, and he laughed at me. Said, that doesn't go on. Are you kidding me? Kidney? You can buy a kidney on the black market. Sure you can. Where do they come from? Who knows? But people are making money on this trade. They're making money on the children. They're making money on the senior citizens. And they're making money.
Look, when you're naive, it allows evil to grow and grow and grow to critical mass. And, folks, we're reaching that. And they're going to blow stuff up. The false flag, like you wrote a few weeks ago, you can see it in the programming. They know we're awake. They're going to make 9/11 look like child's play. And then they're going to try to come arrest people that tell the truth. And at that point, folks, you've got to choose a side. Because going along with these people is not going to help you. Mike, stay there. We're going to come right back on the other side. Incredible interview. We could talk for 10 hours. I want to get into Chuck Norris and all the rest of it. It's just, folks, you got to decide what side you're on. Chuck Norris is clearly deciding. He's talking about... All right, it's the final segment of the official radio show, but I will go into overdrive for 5 minutes to get to Jonathan, Rick, and Justice Badger. And we're going to just leave the other phone lines open. Well, maybe Mark. I don't know how to get to all these people. Mike Adams is our guest. There is so much to cover and go over here. Gosh, we've already talked about the normal thing. But you've got a big article at naturalnews.com today about this. Chuck Norris strikes back against GMOs, Codex Alimentarius, and government assault against health freedom. And Entity talks about the Codex Alimentarius, New World Order, dangers of GMOs, how we have a right to labeling. And again, I'm not always like on this Chuck Norris worship fest, even though he's come on my show off and on for 5-6 years. Suddenly, he's talking about our government's funding Al-Qaeda. That was the headline, plugging Infowars.com. I was just on Drudge, and they've got crony capitalism, a term that patriots pretty much coined decades ago, about Obama giving money to all his select insiders. I mean, we're really having an effect here, Mike.
Yeah, clearly. Great example of it. I don't know Chuck Norris. I didn't even write that article that was written by Ethan. But for Chuck to have such notoriety and to come out and take a strong, courageous position against GMOs, which is the greatest environmental catastrophe of our time, which is why Al Gore won't even mention it, because he's not a real environmentalist. And I do have a story coming out.
Well, the system tries to make it a liberal thing. Like, oh, Limbaugh says liberals are against GMOs. All the big environmentalists don't touch it. But you've got all the studies where it sterilizes rats in 3 generations.
Look, GMOs it should cross the political spectrum, and it does.
It's infecting everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, there's big news.
You talk about science being settled.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
no question. But kudos to Chuck Norris. For whatever reason, he decided to come to this conclusion and take this stand. He deserves credit for it. And by the way, you know he's going to be attacked by the biotech trolls.
Pimp Bob.
Absolutely. Trolls are paid to go online and attack people like me and like you and now like Chuck Norris.
They're admittedly. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And you can tell they're trolls.
We're some of the most attacked out there, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, that's how you know you're being effective. Because now Monsanto or these other companies are actually having to pay PR teams.
By the way, they've been caught. It's not our opinion.
I know, exactly, yeah. They've been caught. But kudos to Chuck Norris. And look, next week there's big news coming out about GMOs. I know you'll want to cover it, so I'll just leave it at that. I can't say it all right now. But Also, we're going to be challenging environmentalists to come out and take a position against GMOs. Because how can you call yourself an environmentalist if you ignore the greatest environmental threat of our time, which is the genetic pollution of our food system, of our entire planet?
Listen, we are genetic creatures that developed on this planet. The system is rewriting it all. It's jumping into other species, already causing huge problems. And then we're not supposed to be able to even have a debate about it?
No. Not supposed to say anything. You're supposed to pay
Al Gore money
for the carbon taxes. CO2 is killing us, but GMOs, they're perfectly fine. It's going to feed the world. That's the lie. That's the big lie. First of all, GMOs don't even have higher yields than regular crops, by the way.
Oh, it comes out they're big scams.
Yeah, farmers are committing suicide across India and other countries.
Everywhere they come in, it just destroys everything.
Absolutely.
I've seen the documentaries in South America where they got the soybean deserts.
Yeah.
And just it's killing everybody around them.
Anyway, big news coming out on that next week, but definitely kudos to Chuck Norris, and I hope you have him on your show, Alex. Because
hey, he's been on many times. We've been emailing the last few months. We'll see. Hey, Chuck, if you're out there, your wife's very nice. Please have her read her email. We're going to go through a publisher. That's another way to get him on. But we're going to come back, take a few calls. In closing here, I'm going to cover this tonight when you're on the TV show with us at 7 o'clock. Wisconsin, no right to produce or eat food. And you actually read the judge's ruling. The judge says there is no fundamental right to develop and grow your own food, or to have your own cow, your own dairy, or the right to have a cow and drink its milk.
You slaves. Added slaves.
I mean, these people really think they're God. A bunch of above-the-law scumbags. See you tonight, 7 o'clock, InfoWars Nightly News with Mike Adams. Okay, I want to jam in a few calls, but... Aaron Dykes is following basically what you've told him and what pharmacist Ben Fuchs has told him. And I've just been doing it for like a month, and I've lost like 10 pounds. I'm still fat. But people can see I've lost weight, especially when I'm not on TV. I'm not too photogenic. I'm feeling a lot better, except for today. I've got some kind of stomach thing. And Aaron has lost a lot of weight. My wife's just started it. She can totally feel it. Her skin's like radiating. Because once you start eating nutrients, you now don't need as much food. You're not hungry.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Ben was a great guest on your show. I hope you have him back on. And I listened carefully to his interview, and I agreed with everything he said, that a lot of hunger is really caused by nutritional deficiencies. And once you remineralize, which you can do through superfoods like Enerfood and like some of the other... I bring superfoods most of the time.
Yeah, you brought us some today.
Yeah, I'm always bringing stuff. I brought chia seeds, and your crew is like addicted to chia seeds now, which is great. I'll bring more.
You're like a drug pusher.
I am, yeah, except I'm not selling it. I'm just bringing...
You're pretty evil, though, bringing vitamins. Oh, my God.
Yeah, but anyway, Ben was right on, and once you do get your nutrition in, you'll automatically start dropping the pounds. I mean, look, I dropped 50 pounds before. I used to be pretty heavy when I was on a lot of processed food, and I don't exercise as much anymore as I used to. I just exercise working on my farm, basically, but I managed to stay sufficiently, fit enough to do my farm work, but I'm not athletically active at all.
And you look like you are. Let's take a quick call here. I tell you, you're definitely evil, though, trying people to eat healthy food. Jonathan in Kansas, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, Alex, I have two video clips on YouTube for you and one news article, but I'm going to the news article first. If you go on Google and you put in Mississippi TSA official charged in fatal stabbing.
Oh, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically, Assistant Federal Security Director for TSA in Mississippi has been arrested and charged for fatal stabbing.
I covered that last week. There was like 5 articles of rapes, stabbings, killings, stealing, pedophile. I mean, every day they're getting busted for something, literally.
Okay. Now, the first video I'm going to is on YouTube, and you can type in Renton cops caught shredding reports on police misconduct. And basically, these cops, they went to Google, who's been known for tracking people online. They went directly to them to arrest someone because they're being made fun of by this guy because he found out about police misconduct and that they were shredding Their police,
Oh, they arrested him for exposing him. Well, that sounds like freedom. What was the name of the town again?
It's Renton. That's Renton. And you type in Renton cops caught shredding reports on police misconduct. That's one. Did you get that?
Yeah, I got it, sir.
Okay. The next one is this woman in 1947. Her name is Mrs. Lee, and she's the president of Planned Parenthood Federation. And this is an old clip of her calling for a ban on childbirth. And she says the clip is "No more babies. Expert calls for ban on childbirth." And it has 1947.
No, I know. Planned Parenthood was founded in their founding documents. They said to exterminate black weeds and white weeds, and it was a Nazi organization. And then it gets praised by the liberals, and they have all the local liberals raise money for them and run around and do it. No More Babies is the name of the clip. We'll get that posted up at Infowars.com. That's on YouTube?
Yes. It's "No More Babies. Expert calls for ban on childbirth." And this is from 1947. So this isn't just about a woman's choice on getting abortion.
No, they want to sterilize you. Listen, you're always great calling with news. We'll check that. We'll get that up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And you haven't heard the last of Mike Adams. He's really going to break all this down tonight. Infowars Nightly News. And we got a special report with Dr. Connett coming up this evening as well. 7 o'clock Central, PrisonPlanet.tv. See you back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Great job, crew.